This is the Royal Seat.
Hello, my friends. I am your Pastor Silas Kanali of LifeGate Churches International. Today, I want to share with you the Word of God from the letter of Paul to the Romans, the first chapter. I am reading beginning from verse 15 and stopping at verse number 16. I read, "So as much as in me I am ready to preach the gospel to you who are in Rome also. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation, for everyone who believes, for the Jew first, and also for the Greek." St. Paul has set his mind he wants to reach the Roman church. Apparently, he had not set his foot there. He did not find that church. He was not the pioneer of that church. However, he has heard many good things about the church and also the challenges the church is going through. The conflict between the Jewish believer and the Gentile believers. After they had left Rome and came back, there was a conflict. But Paul, being led by the Spirit of God, he writes a letter to them, detailing his gospel, detailing his doctrine. And Paul says, not only to the Romans, but to everyone else. He says, according to that verse number 15, he says, it is in him. He is ready to preach the gospel to the Romans also. He's ready to preach the gospel to the people far off also. The gospel is not to the select few. The gospel is for all. The gospel is for the rich. The gospel is for the poor. The gospel is for the illiterate. The gospel is for the literate. Everyone needs to hear the gospel, because this gospel is what brings salvation. Salvation cannot come by religious efforts. Salvation cannot come by fasting, cannot come by prayers. Salvation cannot come by all-night vigil. It comes via the gospel. It is the gospel that Peter terms as the incorruptible seed of the Word of God. It is this gospel that Paul says, hey, Romans, I am ready to preach this gospel to you also. I am ready to come and preach this gospel to you. And I must say quickly that whoever you are and wherever you are, what you need is the gospel. The gospel is the medicine of the soul, is the medicine of the heart. The gospel is what sets people free. It is concerning this gospel that Jesus said, you will know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. The truth here is the gospel. The gospel is the power of God. In other words, Paul says, listen to this. Do you want to see God's power in your life? Do you want to see God's power in your business? Do you want to see God's power in your union? It is via the gospel. The gospel is the power of God unto salvation. Power cannot be found in caves. Power cannot be found on the mountains. Power cannot be found in those places you call prayer places. Power is in the gospel. It is the power of God unto salvation. And Paul says this power of God unto salvation is first of all to those who believe. You must believe the gospel. You must take it to heart and believe the gospel. Isaiah says in Isaiah 53 verse 1, who has believed our report? If you believe the report of God, the arm of the Lord shall be revealed to you. And the report of God says, by the stripes of Jesus you are healed. The report of God says, he who knew no sorrow, he took that upon himself so that you can experience the joy that comes from the Lord. Friends, it is all by the gospel. The gospel is what reforms your life. The gospel is what changes people. The gospel is what sets free. You need to believe the gospel. One man asked, "Do you believe this?" "Yes, I believe the gospel." He said, to the Jew first, then to the Greeks. In other words, the gospel started with the Jew, but it's not limited to the Jew. It reaches out to the entire world. It reaches out to all of us. Gospel is what you need. This year, make an appointment with the gospel. Love the gospel. Sit under the power of the gospel. Shun religious activities. Run away from religious gymnastics and only open your ears and eyes to the gospel. It is the power of God unto salvation. By it you will grow. By it you will become wise. St. Paul told Timothy, from childhood you have known the scriptures which can make you wise. Yes, the gospel will make you wise. The gospel will enrich you. We must listen to the gospel. Make an effort to go to a Bible-believing church and sit under the gospel, not just entertainment of music, but under the gospel of Jesus Christ. It will make you wise. Again, I must finish with the words of Paul. I, Silas, I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation.